Oh, and we are back. Thank God, right? This is what happens, you know? You do 3 podcast episodes and you just stop doing it. You just stop doing it for 2 fucking weeks. So we are back. Um yeah, I don't know what to do with these intros. I have no idea. And I don't think it matters because the only thing I really want to do is just promote the people who come on my podcast, which is, I think, very noble of me. So good job, me. Um, let's see, anything coming up? If you're in the area this weekend, I got shows in Toms River and Waterford Works, New Jersey, the armpit of America. So come on out. You can check it out on my Instagram or Facebook page if you do that, or wherever else I promoted it. And yeah, today's guest, super fun guy. Uh, I've hung out with him a few times. Awesome dude. His music's great, and I really think he's a good mix of modern baseball and Against Me. There's a bit of that in there, and just super cool guy. He also likes comedy. He also enjoys comedy. He's gone to many open mics and seen people eat shit. So I appreciate that about him. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into it.
Get into it, press play, don't quit. Feel the vibe, talk and listen live. Get into it, hit subscribe, don't sit. Join the crew, every week something new. Nostalgia.
Please give it up for today's guest, Craig Shay. He is a 35-year-old who is 5'11". Rub it in. He writes sad songs and tries to bring a lot of energy and some hooks to them. If you ever grew up with a family of dysfunction, you might like his songs. Craig, how the hell you doing today, man?
For the record, I'm 5'10" and a half, but I don't think you had like half-inch options on the form.
Yeah, I'm 5'4.5". I get it. I lie. No, I'm 5'5". I'm totally 5'5". Um, uh, the first question I wanted to ask you, is ska the reason you enjoy comedy?
Is ska the reason I enjoy? No, I think I.
No.
I don't know. I mean, who doesn't enjoy comedy? I think the age like I am, like Comedy Central, I guess, was really big in the '90s, and they would play like the SNL reruns, and they would play Comedy Central Presents, and I just like loved watching that stuff. A weird side effect of watching comedy on cable like that was everything would be bleeped out. So I kind of got used to swear words getting bleeped out, and then as I got older and I was able to like download like full comedy albums and things weren't bleeped out, it was almost like not as funny to me to hear the swear words. So I don't know, kind of interesting side effect there. To this day, I still think a bleep is like probably funnier than like dropping a different word.
For sure. Yeah, no, it definitely can be, right? Um, you said you miss being in New York City. Um, and you would go to a lot of the open mics there. Why? Like
Open
is
mics, like comedy open mics, you mean?
yeah,
Yeah. Here's why I would go to comedy open mics in New York City. 100% of the time, it was by accident. Um, well, there was a little bit of time where I lived with a comedian, so I'd sometimes go to see him, and he was very funny. He's not doing comedy anymore because I think he cares about his mental health. But
for
no,
sure,
no
for
shade to
sure.
anyone still in the game. But no, this thing, my favorite thing in New York City is you will be at a bar, and if you're me, you're ideally at like a dive bar that doesn't have a lot of people, and it's like a Wednesday or a Thursday, and
Sure.
you're in a neighborhood that's not known for comedy, like you're in South Slope or you're in Woodward, Queens, which maybe has more of a scene now, or like Astoria or something. You're just somewhere, and then you're at this bar, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Hey." A bartender or a waiter or someone is like, "This is about to become a comedy open mic. Would you like to stay for that?" And then I'm always like, "Yes, absolutely. I would love to stay." The worst comedy show slash, and I love when things are bad. Like I like to
Sure.
experience things. So like going to a comedy open mic where people like, I don't like that people fail. I just like, it's such an odd experience. I was
Oh,
just
I love when people fail. I
yeah.
love That's my favorite thing.
My wife and I were at the. Here's how this comedy show is set up, and it's baffling to me. But my now wife, time girlfriend, she's living in Bushwick. I think we were at this bar called the Johnsons on like a Sunday, and we were going to get sandwiches and beers. And then they're like, it's a comedy open mic. And the comedy open mic, everyone got 3 minutes. And it was like a 2 hour open mic
Oh,
where 3 minutes is not really enough time, you
no.
know? So it's kind of like, so everyone kind of like had 2 minutes to like not win over the crowd and fail. And then everyone at the 2 minute mark had to decide to just stop or to fail for another minute and to try to fight and win the crowd back, which I think one person was funny. And it's not like, that's like not a good situation, right?
Oh no, no, no. It's definitely not ideal. And I've done like there's a place in Philly I go to, Punchline, and their open mic, and Punchline's like a club, like it's a legit club, and their their open mic, you get 3 minutes, so it's just like, well, I what's even the point? No one cares. But see, that's why you're, I think, I mean, you're a musician, and you kind of get the like live aspect of it, because you're like, oh no, I'll definitely stay. There's so many open mics where you're fucking up someone's night out, like they wanted to eat dinner, have a few drinks, they just got off a long shift. Oh, and here's this asshole telling dick jokes, like, you know,
It's probably
it's
worse for
not
music though, because if a comedian is like talking or like whatever, it's not like that loud, you know. But I've played shows where like people are eating dinner, and, like I'm in a ska band, I'm gonna ruin your dinner. You're not gonna like this. We're in suburban New Jersey, and you came to eat food after work on a Friday, and you are not in the mood for ska.
I love that. That's but that's what I feel like. Ska is the comedy of the music world for some reason. Aside from Weird Al Yankovic, I just feel like people there's like, because ska is a very hard genre, I think.
Yes, 100%.
There's so much involved, um, and I feel like people just shit on ska. And I love ska. I mean, we're gonna talk about some of your favorite albums, but no, I don't know. I just feel like ska is, I don't know, mistreated, you know?
It's this weird
Uh,
thing, and it's an American phenomenon. If you go to like Canada or Europe, like this weird backlash to ska didn't happen. So it's just like a regular genre there. If you're in a ska band, like it's
really?
not a special or a different thing. Obviously, there's people who like ska more than others, but yeah, if you, like
Sure.
we play Pouzza Fest up in Montreal all the time, and they've had this like ska scene going strong since the '90s, and they have fantastic ska bands. I mean, there's some big Canadian ska bands too, like the Planet Smashers is one that comes to mind. But yeah, it's just not, there's no weird ska taboo in Canada. So in here, hits big in like 97, 98. Right after that, there was that weird kind of like summer of swing with like bands like the Cherry Pop and Daddies that were big. And that's just, we got so
Oh.
dorky so quick. And I think there was just this backlash of like, what are we doing? Like, we're swing dancing? Like, and I think ska kind of got that. I mean, I don't think there was as many swing bands, but I think ska kind of got that backlash. But where I'm from on Long Island, there's always been ska bands doing it. Some of them have been doing it a long time. Some of them break up and reform all the time. Like the Fad has broken up a bunch. They're currently broken up. Do I think they'll be back? Yeah, I do. But I don't have any reason to think that. I just like them. But they've been going since the early 2000s, and people in that band do other things in other bands. But yeah, I think I really like that I started out in like a touring ska band. I was in a touring ska band for like 8 years, and we did okay. We got to play the fest, which was like awesome, and Pouzza Fest as my
That's
ska band,
great.
which was an awful name. It was Eli Whitney and the Sound Machine. It was like friends from high school. Yeah, really awful band name. So what I liked about that was we had to be like learn how to do everything, and we had to like learn how to play well and be good and write songs and make albums. But like it was just never gonna take off. Like it was never gonna be anything because like ska bands just
Sure.
didn't get to be anything with like very few exceptions. Though it's funny, there's this big new tone scene now with all like the Bad Time Records bands. Those are the bands I used to play with, like We Are the Union or Kill Lincoln.
Oh, no shit.
Best of the Worst played my ska band's first show. I can't, like, it's so funny they're still a band. I've been seeing the Best of the Worst since
Wow.
2008. Like I used to see
Wow.
them in like bowling alleys on Long Island. They used to play with the Homecoming Queens all the time.
God damn. Yeah, how many people were in the Eli Whitney?
Ooh. It was, the thing about horn players is they move away. Break your heart. We probably had our biggest for like 7 or 8 people.
God
We
damn.
had like trombone, and we had all three saxes. We had Barry, we had tenor, we had alto. trumpet player here and there. Yeah, one kind of core group though of like the saxes and the trombone player who wrote like all the horn parts, and then like me and my best friend Mike Vizzy would write songs, and then CJ has just always been a great drummer, and me and Vizzy and CJ play in a band now called Cold Rex. Like my ska band just became a pop punky emo band where we kind of just the cool thing is like on Facebook and on a lot of social media you could change your name once without any issue. So we built up this like this ska fan base, and then we got to just like carry it over to our like pop punky emo band and keep all of it, which was a great way to start. And there were people too like, you shouldn't change your band name, people know you. And then we changed our band name, and it was the best thing ever because everyone was like, "This is awesome!"
Sure.
And like we didn't have any of the ska baggage. And then of course I feel like there was this new tone scene that like, would we have been a part of it if we had like stayed ska? Like maybe I'm optimistic, probably, but I don't know. I'm happy for all of those folks, and like I just I contributed to. They have that new the new tone documentary that just came out. I was a
Hmm.
Kickstarter backer, so happy. It's so funny that it's like the same people I was playing with in like 2010. It's just
Yeah,
funny.
I mean that's crazy. How I I remember listening to bands like Kill Lincoln and like We
Mhm.
Are the Union, like I don't know, I was in high school, so 10, 12, 15 years ago. I don't know how
Mhm.
old I am now, but uh
Are you
but
30?
like
Are you 25?
31. I'm
31?
31
Yeah.
right now. Yeah. It's a fucking nightmare. Um
I gotta start doing stretches. It's only gonna get worse. I gotta do stretches every day, or I can't play the bass
dude,
guitar.
I dude, I feel that. I'm like, I should really stretch today. My back and everything else hurts. But how so if you've seen kind of like, you know, ska go from, I guess the new tone scene
Mhm.
as a whole, like it kind of this build up. What's different about it now than maybe what was, 10, 15 years ago or however long ago?
Ooh,
Um,
good point. I feel like a lot of the new tone bands are like a little more pop punk ska kind of stuff. Like you could compare like We
okay,
Are the Union or Kill Lincoln to maybe more like a Less Than Jake kind of sound, as opposed to like a full. But then there's exceptions, like they have like Bad Operation from New Orleans,
sure.
and that's not just like that's not a pop punky sound at all. That band's really cool. Um, yeah. Uh, I don't know. I don't know why it like recaptured stuff. I don't know if maybe like I feel like Mike from Bad Time Records just kind of organized this group of people who really paid their dues for a long time. So maybe it was kind of like what I'm talking about, where like you got to tour and it was kind of thankless and you had very few people interested, but you learned so much and you got to be so tight and so good, and you learned how to do that with no reward. But then there's like other things in the backdrop also. Like there's always like Mike Park from Asian Man Records. Like he does Bruce Lee
Sure.
band sometimes. Like Bruce Lee band is my favorite ska band. I think Mike Park is
Really?
someone just because he's been around for so long. I think Mike Park can do this special thing where there's always been like a political aspect to ska, but I think it's hard for a lot of people to write political songs that are like interesting or good, or it doesn't feel forced. I think sometimes people try to write political songs and it lacks like a humanity to it. But I think Mike Park is uniquely good at writing political songs that call out like racism is bad or like sexism is bad. Like he's always been that way. Uh, so yeah, I don't know. There's always been that. Also, I think kind of like as an anchor to remind us, or like the Toasters. There's ska bands that have been going forever. Streetlight Manifesto, Real Big Fish. You can kind of always see those bands. They've always been touring, so they've kind of like anchored a lot of it. But then I feel like the smaller band scene really, I guess, took off with like I don't know. I feel like when it was like what Ordinary Life by We Are the Union came out, I feel like things started to pick up for these bands.
Interesting. Yeah, I
Maybe
guess
I'm
around
wrong. What
that
do I
point, yeah.
know?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think that's a pretty valid argument to make. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, that was what,
It's a little before
2018?
COVID.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I remember that album and I remember being like, "Oh shit, like I'm glad they started making music again." Um yeah, all great bands. Everyone, if you don't know them, please check them out.
Yeah,
So you picked three albums that got you into music. They are Against Me as the Eternal Cowboy,
nice.
uh, Streetlight Manifesto, Everything Went Numb, and The Homecoming Queens, A Sound You Once Knew. Uh, why? Can you tell me about the Homecoming Queens? I'm so interested in this band because I try to look them up on Spotify, as
They're not on
we talked
Spotify.
about. Yeah, they're not on Spotify. They have someone uploaded stuff on YouTube. I checked out a few of their things there. But who are they? Because you are a big fan.
Yeah. Yeah, so they're like all kind of my age. So I saw them for the first time when I was 16. There was this show at a church in, I think, Northport on Long Island. And it was the kind of show where, like, another show, like, the venue bailed. So they just decided to combine these two shows. So it was like an all day thing. There's like 10 or 12 bands. The kind of thing I would totally hate now because it's so long. Like, I want a show to be like three bands. I got things to do. I got to get back to walk my dogs, you know? But back then, I'm like 16. I have endless stamina and endless interest in things, and I've never been to a local show before. So there's like all these like touring like screamo bands and like ska core bands, which I had never even heard before. There's been a billion Ernies who are on Community Records, so I got to hear about Community Records stuff. This band called The Planning Fallacy, which were like a screamo band. It's the first time I ever saw screamo live. Um, this band the Vagabonds from Long Island. There's like this like period of time. It's kind of like mid 2000s until like probably like 2015 of bands that like never made it to Spotify, and you could find stuff on YouTube or these are all bands that got their music out through like file sharing, like Mega Upload. That's been dead
Sure.
forever, but now you have like Mediafire still exists. But like really it was file sharing at the time with burning CDs and stuff. So these bands broke up before Spotify. So if you're interested in them, you have to do a bit of work. Obviously, I have a Dropbox folder with everything the Homecoming Queens ever did, including a live show and including the one version of Summer Song they put out on this one comp that I had to dig up. But I have everything.
Wow.
Yeah, no, that was my favorite band. Like, and my Vizzy, my best friend who plays in Cold Rex with me, it was like his favorite band, and CJ also. Like, we all loved this band, and we would see them, and they played Long Island all the time. One time they played two shows in a day. We drove to both shows. Like, we were obsessed. But we saw them for the first time when I was 16. I don't think Vizzy was there when I saw them, but I was just like, they were kind of like the only band I could really compare them to is Streetlight Manifesto, but they had two singers who had different voices. One of them is more pop punky, one of them is more jazzy. As they got older, like they were always really good at always really good at music, and they were always really good musicians. But as they got older, and like especially when they went to college, they got better and better, and a lot of them are like professional now. There's trombone player Ray
Oh.
Mason, who's like played with Elvis Costello and the Roots, and he's toured with Taylor
Oh
Swift. You can
shit.
see videos of him playing Shake It Off live. Yeah, crazy. He's like a really. It's just so funny because when we were like younger, he was always like a little better than everybody else, and then this thing
Sure.
happened where he got like way better. It was pretty cool. But John Graber, who's one of the singers, it was just his birthday. I think yesterday. Happy birthday, John. He's been playing with No Effects. Like he's been producing some of their stuff. He also produced some of
Wow.
the New Tone stuff. He produced. I know he's like produced some We Are the Union albums, and he did my ska band's last album. It was like the first time we worked with a producer, and he like told us how to showed us how to really write songs as a band and pushed us forward, which was cool. Rich, the jazzy singer, he lives up in I don't want to say where he lives because I don't want to dox him, but he's like
Sure.
a teacher and a dad, and I see him at shows sometimes, like
Oh,
in
nice.
Westchester. He's just a nice dude. He played trumpet in that band too. I saw like the bass player and the drummer at a show a few weeks ago, just catching up. Just it's cool because like they had such a big impact on my life, but then like I'm friendly with them and like they know me. And that last EP they put out, me and Vizzy and CJ actually got to do backing vocals on a song called Sink or Swim. So that you could find on
Was solid.
Bandcamp. I know, it's like it was so important to me. Like as a teenager, I was in my 20s when we did that, but as a teenager, the idea of doing backing vocals on one of my favorite local bands' albums, I'm like, I could exist with this band in an immortal way. And now I'm like,
Oh,
whatever,
for
who
sure.
cares? Who cares who's on a record? But like, it was so important to me, and it was so cool to like do that. But yeah, they're just like always very creative and very talented. Oh, some of their home players I think play in like Big D and the Kids Table now.
Oh.
Like what that band went on to, it's just so funny because they were so talented. But yeah, so they put out like two EPs when we were in high school. They put out this album, A Sound You Once Knew, I think in college, and that was kind of like, it's interesting because it was like half songs they wanted to keep from their EPs, and it was like half like newer, more interesting things that they had been writing, kind of pushing genres, trying jazzier things, trying more screamo kind of heavier stuff. So that was interesting. And then they put out the one EP after that. I think it's called Atlas, and it has like, I guess like a little bit more musically adventurous songs. And John Graber, by the way, if you want to like record with a producer, if you live in California, you could record with John. You could fly him out to New York if you want him to mix or master your stuff. He knows ska, he knows pop punk, he could do whatever. You could hit him up. He had to fill in for El Jefe and NoFX because El Jefe got offered like a
Oh
movie
wow.
role. Yeah, but this is NoFX's last ever tour, so it's not like they can make up the dates. So they had the opportunity. He already plays guitar with NoFX at like every show, just because there's like a third guitar going on.
Oh, got it.
So it wasn't like a huge step in, but he did backing vocals and all that stuff. So I think some fans were mad, but I'm like, no, you guys don't understand. John is uniquely qualified to fill in. He already plays guitar with them. But yeah, he's just someone I've been friendly with, and yeah, he mixed. We did like a Menzingers cover. We had him mix it for us. But yeah, so it's just that this band. So yeah, hugely impactful on me because like that was the band I wanted to be. And again, if you don't know what they sound like, just think of Streetlight Manifesto, where it's like they're so tight and they're so adventurous, and it's so hard to play like that. So that was like I want my ska band to be that, and it's really hard to have like a tight horn section like that and everything. But it was cool to have this local example of people from my area doing the things I wanted, and they would tour sometimes. And it was kind of like if they can do it, I could do it. And I don't think I'm nearly as good, but it was an inspiration. So that's the sound you once knew.
I love it. I mean, god damn, you're passionate. I get it. There are like local bands like I saw back in the day where like, the band for me, there was this band called Hence Reverie. Some band from like Millville, New
Mhm.
Jersey. And I just fucking loved everything they put out. I was like, I need to own every like I was in my 20s and I found like, they'd been broken up for 10 years at this point. And I found their CD on Amazon for like $5. And I was like, oh, hell yeah, I'm buying this. And I like posted a picture. I was like friends with him on Instagram, and I tagged the singer, and he was like, "Bro, I don't think anyone gives a shit about this band anymore." And I was like, "No, definitely not, but I do." So I get it. Um, but I like I don't know, I mean, you're very much inspired by ska. Against me, you said the woes, the honest lyrics, the energy from As the Eternal Cowboy uh is what you liked most about it. And with Streetlight, the songwriting, the musicianship, and the energy. How do you find yourself putting the energy that's present on those records into your solo stuff and then Cold Rex?
Interesting. I don't know if I think about those bands so much when I'm like writing or anything. I think
Okay.
definitely early inspirations. Um, and I think again, what I like so much about ska is because it's like you're not doing it to try to be popular. You're doing it because you really like
Sure.
it. And I think it just made me more comfortable with like genre bending or doing kind of weird, funky things or playing in weird time signatures or being open to like weird instruments or weird vocals or weird rhythms, just kind of being very open in terms of like what you can do musically. Though I would say my solo stuff is a little more straightforward. So for Craig Shay's
Yeah.
solo, the idea was I'd be like I really wanted to play this festival in Europe back in like 2020, and then this thing happened where no one played any festivals in 2020. You might remember it was like a whole thing, but Colrex couldn't do it. So I was like, well, I want to do it. And I was like, I want to be able to play solo if my bands can't do stuff. Now, I always want to do stuff with bands first. I always want to do things with Cold Rex. That is like my priority all the time. But if there's like a cool offer, if Cold Rex can't do it, I want another option. Now, I thought Cold Rex was going to be less active, and now we're like just as active as we've ever been minus touring. So super happy with that. Doing less solo stuff, but I recorded this. I wanted to do like an acoustic album because I play acoustic live, and then I was like, I don't really want to do that. Like sometimes I listen to acoustic stuff, and I'm like, I just wish it had more energy. So I was like trying to do an album, and it just felt too ambitious. So I settled on an EP. I recorded with my buddy Brian DeMeglio. If you live in Brooklyn, he's got a nice studio in Park Slope. You could record with him. He does lots of Brooklyn bands like Stay Inside. But yeah, cool guy to work with. But I hit him up. Me and Matan from Cold Rex went into the studio, and Matan was just kind of like not really producing, but I just needed like someone who knew me and knew the songs to. I'm not always good at like explaining what I want, and Matan is. Anyway, yeah, I wanted my solo stuff to be a little more straightforward. I played everything. I played drums. I played bass, acoustic guitar, stylophone, which is a synth that looks like this. I think I play it a little bit. It sounds cool. They're only like $35. You could buy stylophone. It sounds like yeah, $35. Can't go wrong with that. and I play banjo and glockenspiel. I just like wanted it to have this
God
fun
damn.
kind of energy. Yeah, whatever. But I wrote some new songs, and then I also like revisited some old songs that I just kind of like that I did with a one with the ska band and one though it's not a ska song, and one with Coldrex where I liked my acoustic version of it, and I wanted to bring that back. So I want the point of the solo stuff was to do things a little more true to how I originally wrote stuff. Though I don't think the way I originally wrote anything is better.
Okay.
It's fun to work on things as a band and make them weird. And
For
then
sure.
for Coldrex, so John Graber from the Homecoming Queens produced our ska band's album called Reasons to Leave. That is on Spotify, and
Okay.
people were still buying the cassette tape for that for a while. And we're like, all right, we're running out of cassette tapes. We got to take this off of the Bandcamp. We still have some merch though. I don't think we played a final show in like 2016 or 2017 where we invited a bunch of the horn players back, and no one really cared. But there was our final show. Like no one, it wasn't like a big show or anything, but it was like a nice send off. But yeah, so reasons to so John like would come to our practice space and would just like challenge us. Like he'd be like, "Hey, for this song, the first chorus you're not gonna sing. We're just gonna have the music, and then for the last chorus you're gonna sing, and then you're gonna do the chorus the second time. It's like more rockin'." And I'm like, "Well, I don't." I didn't write it that way. I don't want to do it that way. And John's like, I don't care how you wrote it. It's like it's better if you do it like this. And I'm like, oh, John listens to music all day and produces all day. He's gonna have better ideas than me. I should collaborate and listen to him, and my songs will be better. And he would do things like that on the album. He's like, this should be a weird time signature. Like he would cut this, make that longer, and then that taught us how to work with a producer, but also how to write maybe more for a record or as a band. And then that really changed. Like
Interesting.
after that, our drummer CJ was I think always more part of the songwriting process. He's also like the best musician in the band. He has great ideas. I love his musical ideas. So that was important because that taught me to like not have ego about songwriting or in the studio, and to just be very open to cooperation.
Okay. Perfect. The Yeah, I mean like that's very interesting. You know, as a comic, I really don't write with other people. And I don't run my shit by anyone. Like open mics are the only way I run my shit
You
by
can do
anyone.
improv with the ska of
Uh
comedy.
that kind of is the ska of comedy.
It
Oh
is the
god.
ska of comedy.
You're not yes ending right now.
Well, you know the two most important words in improv, right?
I don't.
Rich parents. That was a joke. Obviously, the answer is
That's
yes
good.
and, but
That's
if you want to do
fucking
it, it's
good.
rich parents. It's not my joke, but
That's a good one.
Missy and I actually did improv in high school. Our high school had an improv comedy troupe that was started by some dude
Really?
who just wanted to make friends. Yeah, and it was like the only club in the school where the advisor position was unpaid, and that the school administration definitely hated it. But yeah, a few people in that ska band actually were in the comedy troupe, and I don't know, it's just like I'm glad that we got it out of our system in high school because I feel like doing
Yeah,
that kind of thing in high school is very forgivable.
yeah, you guys would be a fucking menace right now. No one would like you. I'm just kidding. I'd love you. All right. Now this was a very interesting thing. You decided to tell me. So I'm gonna ask about it.
I never talked
Huh.
about this.
Well, I gotta ask anyway. You have a single IMDb credit
Yeah.
where you do stand up in a short movie that a friend made.
Mm-hmm.
You say she was a very good director and got you to tell a very embarrassing story. And it's the first shot of the movie.
Opening scene. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Opening
Right
scene,
away.
yeah. What is this movie? What?
Did I write down what it was called?
No.
It's called. I think the word "funny" is in it. Let me look at my IMDb credit real quick.
Okay. See, I should have done this. This is bad journalism on my part.
It's so weird that I'm typing it in and it's not coming up right away. I thought I'm so important. Okay. Oh, it's called. The movie's called Unfunny. It came out in 2015. It's a short movie. My friend
Unfunny.
Christina. It's cool living in Brooklyn. You meet lots of cool people. She's like a really good writer. She did 2 movies. This is the second one, and it's about a comedian, and she's part of like a comedy couple, but then they break up, and she kind of has to like figure out like her new comedy voice. What is she doing? So Christina was like, "Hey, does anyone want to come to this bar in Park Slope? I can't remember what it was called. We had friends who worked there at the time." She's like, "I just need extras for this movie. You're gonna just pretend to be comedy bros and like boo this woman when she tries to do comedy, basically. And we'll give you free beer." I'm like, "Great." So I got a bunch of, I like beg a bunch of friends, and like I bring this. I don't know, it was like 5 of us maybe. I can't really remember. And then she's like, "You're all gonna do stand up," and I was like, "I don't do stand up. None of us do stand up. Like, well, some of us did music." But she was like, and then she's such a good writer. She was like, "There's always a stand up that like talks about how dating apps suck. Craig, that's gonna be you. There's always a stand up who complains about how their family's crazy. Mike, that's gonna be you." Like she had such a good idea of what she wanted. And then I had told her a story that, you know, sometimes you tell your friends stories that are a little intimate. It was super embarrassing, and I didn't want to do it for the movie. I didn't plan on doing stand up. I just thought we were gonna boo somebody and drink beer, which is also a scene. Um, I told a different story, and like she just kept being like, "Cut, let's redo it. Cut, let's redo it." She just wore me down. I told this other story. I kept telling this other safer story that wasn't as good, and she just kept do it again, do it again. What was that other story? I'm like, I'm not. She's like, "What was the other story?" And then eventually she got me to do it because she's a good writer and director. And I told it once, and then that's the first scene in the movie, and it's super embarrassing. It's a failed one night stand kind of story, and that's how her film opens. But it's an interesting movie, and it's like the lead plays with like gender in terms of like how she like wants to be a comedian, because I would say that, you know, female comedians have it tougher than male comedians,
For sure.
you know, in terms of like the criticism you deal with and that kind of stuff. So I think like it kind of plays with a bit of that. There's a scene where she has like a beard she makes out of blush, like the makeup was kind of interesting.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's my single IMDb credit.
I love that.
The
That's
only
fucking
time I've
hilarious.
ever kind of done stand up, and it was only because I wasn't planning to, and I was asked to do it for a movie.
I get it, man. That's me every time I go on stage. Anything you want to plug?
Yeah, Cold Rex put out an EP last year. It's called Cold Rex Like Defeat. So it's kind of an homage actually to Against Me as the Eternal Cowboy, like doing the thing where the album title plays with the band name. As
Perfect.
Craig Shay, I put out an EP last year. What did I call that? I don't remember. I have cassette tapes
Sadly,
of it.
yes.
Sadly, comma, yes. Thought about calling the whole project that. Sadly, yeah, I can't remember the name of my own solo thing. I haven't done anything with it in a minute, but I like those songs. I think it came out good. I played in a band called Answering Machine that's not super active, but we put out an album called Bad Luck that I like a lot. It's the album's you could buy it from Wiretap Records. Sammy and Lewis from Answering Machine have a band now called Sadlands that are really, really fantastic. They have an EP out. Go check it out. It's super good. Me and JD from Answering Machine play in JD's solo band called James Dean and the Village Green, and we just got final mixes of our new album. I think it sounds great. Super excited about that. And I play in a million bands. I'm so sorry. Me and the JD's drummers, Greg Hansen, are filling in for a rock and roll band called the Duke of Searle, and I'm actually playing a show with them later today, so that should be fun. And they're putting out an album, though. That's the kind of thing. It's like a solo project where the singer records everything. We're like, "Oh, we could record with you," and he was like, "No, I really like." It's like his like it's like therapeutic for him to record everything, so I don't want to mess with that process. And anything else to plug? I met my wife on the Chris Gethard show, so always check out Chris Gethard if you're looking for fun New Jersey long style comedy.
Yeah, I will be playing with him at Fest this year. So
you're doing Fest? That's awesome. Yeah, I once saw a set at Fest. He was supposed to, since I met my wife in a show, he was supposed to marry us, but then he couldn't. And then, I like, you promise something, and then 5 years later, someone calls you for the favor. Also, it's like COVID times, and
right.
Like, yeah, I didn't like. I had like 2 or 3 officiants on deck. I wasn't. But I just wanted to like let him know things were cool. Also, I made these guitar picks. I have one at my wedding. That side 1 is just my wife's name and I, and the date we got married. And side 2 says Chris Gethard owes me a wedding. So I gave
That's hilarious. Oh my god. That's beautiful. I'll have to ask him about that if I meet him at Fest.
Yeah, no, we talked about it. His Fest set was great. Like I'm a huge Chris fan.
He's great, man. Yeah, please go follow him on all the socials, all his music. That'll be down below. All those links. His Instagram handle is Craig Shay, at Craig Shay, and at Coldrex. And Craig, you were amazing. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, man.
Get into it. play, don't quit. Feel the vibe, talk and listen live. Get into it, hit subscribe, don't sit. Join the crew, every week something new. Nostalgia.
Wasn't that a fun episode? Ska's a good time. If you don't like ska, go fuck yourself. But yeah, Craig Shay's the man. I love him. If you have any interest, which I hope you do, I do have his cassette tape for sale at the Over Caffeinated Records shop. So check it out. But above all else, check him out on Spotify. Um, fantastic songwriter. And also check out his band Cold Rex. And with that, I guess I'll see you next week. Later.